So hi everyone, welcome back to another Astrology Now with Babula and myself. And this month, Babula's going to talk about the new moon in Leo that's coming up. And Babula, I believe that's sort of spearheads what they call the Lion's Gate, which happens every year. Is that right?
Yes, it's quite amazing that this year, I'll talk about the Lion's Gate. It's a thing that happens every year while the sun's in the sign of Leo. And there's a specific date, the 8th of the 8th, the 8th of August, when it's at its peak. And I'll talk more about that. And it just happens that this year, the 8th of August isn't only the peak of the Lion's Gate, it's also the new moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting and remarkable.
Does that make it more powerful?
I think it does, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So of course the sun and the moon will be together at the same degree, and I'll have a look at what else is happening with that new moon. But the Lion's Gate is, as we said, something that occurs every year during this time. It's like we could call it an opening, a portal, a gateway, energetically. That really comes out of largely the knowledge of ancient Egypt, when the pyramids were aligned with the cosmos and the stars and the movements of the heavens and so on, and particularly with the star Sirius, which from planet Earth in our system is the brightest star in our sky. And every year at this time, Sirius rises in the east just before sunrise and becomes really strongly visible on the eastern horizon in the early morning. And they call that the heliacal rising, when a star's rising in a way that's visible. Like it wouldn't happen at sunrise because the sun would be too bright, we wouldn't see it. So it's just before. And that the energy of that star becomes very prominent at that time. And given that Sirius is such an important star in all kinds of ways, there's all kinds of esoteric systems of knowledge that will speak about Sirius. You could just do a search online, like what's the esoteric meaning of Sirius? You'll come across a plethora of stuff.
Yeah.
And many ancient traditions have spoken of this star. So it's just a time when Sirius is very powerful, and it occurs in the month of Leo, which is totally appropriate. Leo, the lion, and the lion imagery and symbolism was so powerful in ancient Egypt. There's even Sekhmet, the goddess with the lion head, and the Sphinx, the lion, and so on and so on. Yeah. So it's said to be just a very highly energized time when things are really peaking. And boy, it certainly feels like things are peaking at the moment.
It does. Actually, I noticed that about two days ago.
Yeah.
It was just like a sense of things coming to the boil.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it can be a very positive time in many ways, where some people who are quite energetically open might find themselves just having tremendous experiences of expansion, of consciousness and so on. Some say it's a time when our capacity to manifest is really strong, because Leo's got a lot to do with what we create. It's what we're creating artistically in all kinds of ways. So that's, what is our vision? What is our passion, our power? What do we want to express and create in our life? So it can be a very potent creative time, very high energy time.
So Leo also governs the heart, the aorta, blood pressure, blood circulation. Is that right? Have I got that right?
It certainly does.
Yeah.
And so, in medical astrology, if a highly skilled and trained medical astrologer was looking at heart conditions, that'd be the first place they'd look. They'd look at the sign of Leo. And we know that like often Leo people have Leo men especially, you'll often find them with a big chest. It's this chest area of the body and this kind of upright stance, this regal upright stance that's coming from the chest area.
Mm.
Yeah, so, you know, we're seeing incidences of heart health issues coming to the fore currently. Yeah, so, you know, heart health can definitely be an issue when Leo's up, but it can also be a really positive thing, you know, like our heart might be feeling really good and really open and strong too.
Yeah. So what happens when the new moon shines its light or lack of in Leo?
Yeah, so there is no moonlight, is there?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because the moon's sort of married with the sun, if you like. So it occurs at 16 degrees of Leo, so it's right smack in the middle of Leo. And if we remember the full moon 2 weeks ago was at 1 degree of Leo Aquarius. It was right at the beginning. And the next full moon is going to be at 29 degrees of Leo Aquarius. And this is the midpoint, right in the middle at 16 degrees, which is smack in the middle of the sign. So that makes it particularly powerful too, and it's right in the middle. So it's a strong Leo 9 month with a Leo full moon, a Leo new moon, followed by the Leo full moon. And we'll talk about this more next time, you know, the blue moon story.
I don't know. That's a lot of Leo for me. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that. Too much.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, you see, I love it because I have Leo rising and there's a lot of Leo energy in my family system. So I'm very familiar with it, you know.
Yeah.
You've got Aquarius rising. So
my air's going to feed that Leo.
That's that fire. So, you know, to me, Leo's got a lot to do with, you know, passion and joy and creative power and presence and so on. But of course, like all signs, it can also run amok in an egoic sort of a way. And yeah, that's true of all signs in their own particular way, for sure.
Yeah. It can be a bit bulldozery and insensitive. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Fire can absolutely, you know, fire can just be too much. And as we all know, fires can be, you know, destructive as well.
Yeah.
But you know, the new moon every 4 weeks is about, you know, the new cycle, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. So it's a powerful sort of seed planting time. You know, what seeds are we planting about our own identity and sense of self and sovereignty and who we are and creative power and, you know, what's going on with our inner light.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a lot of talk around sovereignty at the moment, isn't there?
A lot.
There's a lot of pushback from the public about their personal sovereignty over their bodies, over their choices. Yeah, so it's a real, maybe that's what I'm picking up on, all that Leo energy. It's so much of it. It's like it's surrounding us everywhere.
Yes,
No.
that's right. And it's that sense of, you cannot do this to me because I am sovereign. And I think you mentioned it, the single most important thing about sovereignty is our body.
Yeah.
You know, nobody has the right to demand that we put anything in our body that we're not permissioning fully.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that there be no coercive negative consequences if we choose to not do so. You know, this is a huge issue around sovereignty.
Yeah.
Yes. So I know. So all this kind of really just looms very large and prominent while we're in the Leo month.
Yes. Yeah, and there's this sense of one energy wants to dominate. This energy wants to dominate and subdue and submit other groups, you know. So that's that sense of what you're talking about, that Leo out of control.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. The ruling classes. You know, in Australia, we don't talk so much of the aristocracy, but in a way, the aristocracy is alive and well. You know, you've just got to look at the whole political system and, you know, it's a pretty entrenched, generational, familial kind of aristocratic system in many, many ways. You know, when you start looking into it, it really is. And
You were telling me that the British monarchy have strong Leo placements, but William and Harry do not.
No, they do not. They've broken the pattern that's gone on for generations, because I've always been fascinated by that. And I like to do research astrologically because I'm just interested in people and the world. And so over the years, as an astrology teacher, I used to use the royal family charts, especially back in the day when all that was going on with Charles and Diana and the Queen. I mean, astrologically, it was spectacular. They were perfect, demonstrations of astrology at work. But then along came these boys of Diana and Charles, and astrologically, they've broken a pattern. They don't have that Leo energy, which is very interesting.
Yeah, and it comes across.
That's right.
Because you think of British monarchy, I don't think of them.
That's right.
I think of the Queen,
That's right. And that older regime.
Yeah, because she's still very prominent. I wouldn't say powerful, but prominent.
Yes, as the head.
It may particularly relate to being an Australian as well.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think it's just there's the sense of her as being the head of state, and they are not. They don't have that same energy about them.
That's right. And neither do William's children. Oh, his daughter is a Leo, but the son, who supposedly will inherit, what's his name? George. Yeah. He doesn't have the Leo energy either. But the next child, who was a girl, whose name I forget, she is a Leo. So she's come in with, but I used to watch this, even men and women who would marry into the royal family all had some Leo in their chart. Diana did, always. So interesting.
It is fascinating, yeah.
But I think, to me, it's more about each of us need to know and discover our own crown, our own kingdom, queendom, within. That's what, to me, it's really about, not somebody else reigning over us.
Yes, yes.
We claim that sovereignty for ourselves, and then collectively in Aquarius, learn how to create a world together based on each of us being sovereign. That's,
Yeah, because everyone can't be... In a world that wants of responsible people, you can't have others taking on responsibility for you or reigning over you, their sense of what's responsible and what's not.
That's right. And it's, it's just an innate trait of Leo too. Leo has a natural capacity, inclination to want to lead, rule. Like Leos are often said to be bossy. Well, yeah, that is a part of, they're kind of naturally inclined to want to step up and tell others what to do. It's coming from this sense of leadership. And that, of course, can be a really negative expression of that, like really negative, wants to just lord it over everybody. Or it might come out in the sense of being a theatre director. They just naturally have that capacity to take charge in a very creative, positive way. Or many people with Leo are natural teachers. They're not afraid to step up and step into those roles of authority and leadership. Yeah.
What about, do you know offhand, without having to send you off to look up, which I won't, but do you know offhand if Scott Morrison, our Prime Minister, has a strong Leo?
Well, that's a very excellent question, because we don't have a time of birth for him, but I suspect his ascendant could be Leo. He has a quality, and I will express an opinion here. In my view, it's not a particularly positive one, of the sign of, but he does have traits, I think, that speak of Leo to me, and I wouldn't be surprised if his rising sign, which I can't be sure because we only know a rising sign when we have a time of birth, and we don't. So we astrologers love to speculate on these things, but there are certain clues that you get that can go, it's looking pretty Leo to me.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, although he doesn't have the mane of hair.
No, he doesn't have the mane of hair, which you'll often get. That's right.
Yeah. Maybe he did when he was younger. I have to look up some historical photos.
Yeah, maybe that's right. Maybe when he's young, he had long hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else is in store this month?
Okay, so well, just a little bit more about that new moon, because it is a powerful one. You know, Leo is one of the 4 fixed signs. You know, Leo, it's a cross, like Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, Scorpio. They sit in a cross on the chart, and those fixed signs are signs of power and strength, and there's a lot of creative power in there. So we know the main astrological theme of 2021 is Uranus in Taurus square Saturn in Aquarius. Well, this new moon is triggering that square between those planets. So this new moon makes a square to Uranus, which is the planet that represents, you know, revolutionary change and evolution and sudden dramatic events and shocks and surprises. And it's also in opposition to Saturn. So there's tremendous pressure. And people are feeling it, aren't they? There's a sense of incredible tension in the air.
Yeah. And I know you'd probably talk about this, but I'm preempting it. Uranus is also going to go retrograde this month, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. So, yeah.
So, and it's a slow moving planet as well.
It is. It's a slow moving planet, and it only moves a few degrees, like about 3 degrees every year. So for all of August, we could really say that Uranus is stationary, meaning from our perspective on Earth, looking out at the stars, the planets, Uranus would be appearing to have stopped. Like it's still at 14 degrees, Taurus. So it's stationary, preparing to make a retrograde motion. So from the 20th, when it's technically actually turning retrograde, it will then be in retrograde motion for about 5 months, which happens every year. So but it's around the time these planets are stationary that they're at their most potent. And because Uranus moves so slowly, that means the whole of August, Uranus, this planet that represents consciousness and awakening, but also that revolutionary impulse to push back against tyranny and excessive authority, like its presence is very strong. And on that, you know, and it's going to really get activated by that new moon.
Yeah. And do you think it's like, I imagine with retrogrades, because it gets you to focus on something, it's a good time to actually stand back and sort of go, okay, so let's look at the whole picture here.
Yeah.
You know, and what's sustainable, and can things continue to go on like this?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Because Uranus is very much a big picture view, isn't it? It's a more kind of stepping back, looking at the whole thing. And I think as you were saying, and I was seeing that, you know, I think we're all individually looking at what decisions we might making as things keep intensifying and moving really quickly. Maybe we're having to make some choices and decisions that we never thought we would. You know, things are happening going, well, I never thought that was going to happen. Even in our own personal world and maybe our employment, our work, our relationships with people. You know, like Uranus is also the planet of surprises. Like, oh, where did that come from? You know, or people, like just the other day, a couple that I used to know years ago and haven't seen for years, just reached out and said, look, we're just reaching out to old friends. We just want to connect. And we had a wonderful hour-and-a-half chat on Zoom about all kinds of stuff. That's a Uranian moment, like, oh, you know, a surprise, but a wonderful one. And we just had this wonderful conversation. And so now we've reconnected. That's a very Uranian thing, you know?
Yeah. Do you think it's also, I'm just thinking back to what I said about, you know, what's sustainable. Do you think because Uranus is about consciousness, the way we think, you know, do you think people might be going, because you said before, oh, I didn't see that coming. What about if people are going, I think I'm going to change my mind about that.
Yes.
Do you think that's a possibility?
Yes. Flips.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like, in fact, I was having a chat on Facebook Messenger this morning with someone about that. And we were kind of laughing that whoever thought that we'd be agreeing with what this particular person has to say, when I always thought this person was completely the antithesis of everything I think. And all of a sudden they're saying things and I'm going, what? I'm actually agreeing with, I never thought I'd see the day when I would agree with this person.
Yes, I think I know who you're talking about too.
You probably do. But that's so Uranian, when things just get flipped.
Yes.
And like, who would have ever imagined that would happen?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, very interesting.
Very, very interesting. And that's how Uranus works. It is the great awakener. And there's that favorite quote of mine that I might have mentioned, you know, the universe has shaken you to awaken you. And we get shaken up, don't we?
Yes.
Everything is getting shaken up.
It's a different sort of shaking at the moment compared to last year. Last year was just like, bam, you know, it was like this year it's like this sort of thing, you know, like, it's a different sort of for your own good sort of thing, or, you know, awaken to what you need to know. Whereas last year was just, you know, it's like a dead fish in the face.
Right.
You know? But this year it's more like, are you not getting this yet? You know,
that's
that
right.
sort of thing. Yeah, wake up.
It is. And because that's the pressure, isn't it, of Saturn square Uranus is pressure. And it's like the pressure isn't easing off. It's just not easing off. It's like more. You know, have you got it yet? Have you seen something yet? You know, how much more of this do you want until something cracks, really?
Yeah, a bit like the boiled frog syndrome, isn't it? Just raising the temperature under the frog until the frog goes, oh my God, it's too late. You know?
That's right. Or suddenly wakes up and goes, what the, and is able to still leap out. Yes. You know, are we able to still leap out of the boiling pot, or is it too late and are we now boiled?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's right. So, and that's about being awake, you know, and yeah. So that's Uranus. And so while it's stationary, that's an interesting thing, you know, while it's stationary, that energy of Uranus feels like it's not moving forward. And when planets go retrograde, they're sort of going back over old territory. And then when they move forward again, there's a sense of release. Okay, now that energy, having done all of this work, because we're going back over past material. And then when it moves forward again, there is a sense of, now we can move forward.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, just on that retrograde, like currently, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto are all retrograde, and soon Uranus will be as well. So that's literally all the outer planets in retrograde motion, which is not uncommon. So don't worry, people. That's very natural. At certain periods of the year, there's a bunch of planets retrograde, and then eventually one by one they'll turn direct again. But yeah, it can be a lot of introspection, a lot of reevaluating going on, a lot of revising, going back into the old situations in all kinds of ways, you know.
Yeah, I found I was doing that this morning. I was revising something, a video clip that I'd posted back in May, and I was having a moment where I was going, this is really important. You know, that sort of, I posted it back in May, but it was like looking at it again and looking at things that I've been looking at again to make sure I've got it right, you know, or is there another way of looking at this? You know,
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm also seeing things popping up on Facebook that people posted a year ago, and you go, oh my God, that's as though they wrote this today. Like, you know, I saw a friend do that this morning and I thought she must have just written it. And then I realized, no, this was 12 months ago. And she commented like, this seems more true than ever right now.
Yeah.
You know, so things coming up from the past to be revisited and reevaluated, and, you know, do I still see it this way? Do I still feel that same way about it? Or has it something changed?
Yeah.
Or maybe I need to go back and look deeper.
Yes, yeah, a new curiosity about something.
Mm. And of course, there's also that old thing around retrograde planets, which is true, like my recent reconnection with old friends, that people from our past can just turn up out of nowhere. You know, you go, oh, wow, I haven't heard from you for years. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And that might be a great thing. It might not be a great thing, you know, depending on the situation. Like, oh, actually, I'm not sure that I want to go there.
Hopefully it's a bit more positive.
But, you know, like the universe moves in mysterious ways and everything comes up for some purpose, doesn't it?
That's something that's always fascinated me, how some people come into our orb and they stay there forever.
Yes.
Other people come in and go out and come in. And you can spend like a couple of years seeing a lot of them, and then they go out, and it's fascinating. And I think about the clockwork like phenomena that's behind that and driving it. And, you know, like the as the planets transit, they sort of come in and they click in for a while,
Yes.
and then they click out again. And, you know,
Yes.
it's like the insides of a huge clock, the universe, how all the planets sort of move around. And yeah, and then we've got our own galaxy,
Mm-hmm.
our own solar system, doing that in our own galaxy, in their own galaxy, doing that in around others. It's fascinating.
It's incredible. And that reminds me of, you might have seen pictures of that clock in Switzerland, I think it is. It's centuries and centuries old. It's huge on the outside of a big building, church, I think. And it's just got all these, and it's a working clock, and it's an astrological clock showing the movement of the sun, moon, and the planets, you know, circles within circles, all moving.
Yeah.
Just like, but it just gets bigger and bigger, doesn't it, on bigger scale, suns within systems, within galaxies. And
yeah, and the effects that they have, that's the powerful part.
that's the powerful part. We're not separate from any of that.
No.
We're all part of that. That's right. So one more thing before I move off from the Uranus story, which, by the way, does turn retrograde technically on the 20th, but all August it's stationary. It's in Taurus, remember, and for the 7 years Uranus is in Taurus, one of the big themes is money and finances and financial systems. Our own personal finances, of course, is Taurus, but it's also the world financial systems. And Uranus is that planet of shattering, breaking, revelation, revolution, awakening, consciousness. Uranus is not it's not stable in the sense that nothing's meant to stay this or can stay the same when Uranus is active. Things are guaranteed to change. And it can be shocking. So
I think I've asked you how far in of that 7-year period is Uranus and Taurus.
it's about halfway through. Yep. And so while it's in this stationary period in August, and while it's being activated by, you know, this new moon, so the sun is making squares to Uranus, and Saturn's making squares to Uranus during this period while it's stationary. I am noticing there's even more talk and so on about money and finances and what's happening, and everyone's got perspectives and views and opinions about how it's going to go, and, you know, do this and do that. No, do this. No, invest in this. No, don't invest in that. Invest in this. And it's like everything's moving. And I just think, I just kind of come to the conclusion for myself, and I don't know. I don't think anybody knows.
No, that's right.
I think by the end of Uranus in Taurus, in about 3 or 4 years, the financial landscape of the world will have changed radically. And we don't know exactly how that's going to look. But it's certainly, the whole cryptocurrency thing is very Uranus, you know, technology. That's a big part of this story, but it's all very unstable. And there are no real guarantees. So I think we just got to follow our own instincts and our own sense of what feels right, you know?
Yeah. I think it's a good time to follow your intuition.
Very much. Very much. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's just a relevant thing to bring in for people, you know, while this is happening, I think. But I think it not begs the question, but I think it's a really valid point for all of us to be really looking at our finances and taking certain steps, whatever feels right to us, whatever makes sense to, everyone individually, to, be setting things in motion, making choices, decisions about what we think will be our best way of handling finance. And some people, of course, are losing their jobs or ending up in dire financial straits. Yeah, there's a lot happening on that front.
Yes.
Yeah.
Poor people.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah, I feel sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot happening. It's a strong new moon. Let's just say that. It's quite like that full moon 2 weeks ago was very powerful. Boy, oh boy, was that a doozy. And this is a strong new moon. So one more thing that's happening on the new moon is that the asteroid goddess named Ceres, who was the first asteroid discovered in 1801 and the first asteroid named, she was named after Ceres, the great mother goddess. And she was even classified as a minor planet back in about 2005. So she's given quite a sort of strong status in the astronomical world. And she's by far the biggest of all the asteroids. So she will be on this new moon on the 8th, sitting exactly with the black moon Lilith at 2 degrees of Gemini. So these are both very potent feminine energies and archetypes. And yeah. So Ceres is kind of got two parts to her story. She's the great earth mother. She's got a lot to do with food and food security and farming and land. All the images we have of her, all the depictions, she's seen holding a sheaf of wheat. A lot to do with food production, agriculture, and so on. And the earth is sustaining her people. And so her role was to kind of ensure the fertility of the land and the people. She's also got a lot to do with the mother-daughter story, in that her daughter was Persephone, who was abducted by Hades, Pluto, the lord of the underworld. And out of that whole process, Persephone became queen of the underworld. So it can also bring up issues around, in Gemini, communication between mothers and daughters, and strong dynamics going on between mothers and daughters. And we've had a few chat conversations about, we ourselves included, we seem to know a lot of friends and people who are having a lot going on with their daughters. Not necessarily in a bad way, just lots going on, big stories happening.
Yeah. Moving house, changing relationships.
That's right.
Changing jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. So, but I think in the world stage, that conjunction at 2 degrees of Gemini, which is about, communication and media and our voice and so on, can also bring up, might express and manifest as just more issues coming to the fore about, what we're allowed to say and what we're not allowed to say. And whenever we're speaking in any kind of public arena, whether it's online or getting together with friends, to what extent are we kind of guarding what we say? Are we feeling we can just speak freely, or are we kind of adapting to that situation and modifying what we speak of? I mean, this is what's going on.
Yeah. And I think that, like for myself, I've said a few things on my local community Facebook page, and I know as soon as I say something, I'm going to be chastised or, told to that's not right or something. Like that. You sort of start, after a while, you think, actually, I've got as much right to an opinion as what you have, which I said yesterday. Of course, I got chastised.
Good, but especially on your own page.
Yeah. Oh, yes, on my own page. Yes, don't even go.
But it's a different thing if you're going onto other people's and, having a go. Like I feel very strongly about that right to speech on our own platform,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, and I think people are getting a bit jack of that.
Mm-hmm.
That they want to say what they want to say, and of course we know there's a lot of buttonholing going on anyway. And I'm really keen to know when the media is going to get its own.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I wish that would hurry up and happen.
I know.
Yeah, so yeah, I think and it's part of that sovereignty once again, because the lion wants to roar.
Absolutely. And it's a basic human right to be able to speak freely. And, supposedly in a democracy, free speech is a foundational right.
Yeah.
But it's pretty rapidly diminishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anytime there's these strong energies moving in Gemini, and of course, the North Node is continuing to move back through the sign of Gemini. I think it's currently around 8 degrees. So I haven't looked up just when, but sometime by the end of the year, it will finally come out of Gemini, where, the nodes are in the signs for about 18 months. So, that Sagittarius, Gemini, North-South node story has been playing out very strongly for the last year or so. There's a whole issue about media and what's true and what's not, big time. So it'll be interesting when it shifts comes out of those signs. I think we'll see some shift. I'm not sure what exactly that will look like, but yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So on the 12th, Mercury will leave Leo and move into the next sign, which is Virgo. Now, Mercury is very happy in Virgo because we say in astrology that Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. Yep. So it means it's in its own sign. It's like, when we're in our own house, it's like we can just be ourselves. So Mercury in Virgo is a strong Mercury being the mind and thinking. So in earthy Virgo, Mercury operates in a fairly pragmatic kind of hands-on way. It's often a strong placement in the charts of scientists. Virgo likes to be very analytical, very precise, check the facts. It just doesn't just go off on a wild opinion. So we're going to see, well, where did you get that from? Prove it to me, back it up with documents, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
Like, where's the evidence? It likes to be very rational and logical and particular and precise about things. And so for those weeks while Mercury's in Virgo, it can be a great time for mental focus. If our work is related to our minds in some way, then can be a very, very, very productive time to, really get a great deal done, because the mind's like sharp, strong, precise, on the job. Virgo's the job, the work, getting it done.
Yeah.
So that can be, Mercury will be pretty happy to be there. Mars is in Virgo now. So Mercury will start to move towards Mars, and just jumping ahead a little bit, that conjunction will take place on the 19th, just kind of a few days before the full moon. So when that Mercury meets up with Mars, pretty much for that whole week, our minds are going to be very, very fired up. So that can be positive and productive and really creative. Like, the minds are just sharp and on full, like all the engines are switched on, But it can also be, there can be verbal and mental duels going on, the battleground of the mind, because Mars loves a battle.
Yes.
So there might be lots of verbal and mental argy-bargy going on big time. We might, just experiencing that ourselves can be very stressful, because Virgo can get really wound up and stressed and anxious and full of anxiety. It worries,
Yeah.
So that's coming in as well. The other thing about that, with Mercury and Mars in Virgo over the next couple of weeks, sort of coming together, Hygeia is also there, and she's a really important asteroid as well. And Hygeia is the goddess of health and healing and medicine. So she's an important, I very often look at her placement in people's charts, especially if they're kind of wanting to ask me about health issues and so on. And so we look to the sign of Virgo for health and illness and medical matters. And we can also look to the asteroid goddess Hygeia. So she's in Virgo now.
Right.
So she's traveling with Mercury and Mars in Virgo. So public health issues are very much to the fore, as we know. But it could also be for ourselves, you know, like health issues. It's a great time for us all to be cleaning up our act.
Yeah. It was always a good time for that.
It's always a good time.
It's always really to do that. That's for sure.
Pardon me.
No more chocolate. No more wine. No more chips.
I know, like what needs to be eliminated so that we can clean up our diet, you know, because if you know Virgo people who are into health and natural health and so on, they're very particular.
Yeah.
And they study it and they have a lot of knowledge. And, you know, over the years, I have many friends who work in those fields and clients and so on. And they all have Virgo. Anyone who works in those fields has Virgo.
The interesting thing with Virgo, though, it's a sign of extremes, isn't it? So you'll get that on one end of the pendulum, and then you get complete opposite on the other side. You know.
I know that's actually true.
Yeah. So you've got Virgo who's, you know, health conscious and tidy, particular, and on the other pendulum, they're slobs, and they just eat anything. It's just like. It's a very strange sign.
It is. It's interesting. And what I found, though, until something happens with their health and they get a bit of a wake-up call, you know, very often, not always, I just go, holy moly, I think I need to do something about this, you know. So the other thing for someone with a lot of Virgo who's not into their health, they might channel it all into their work and have strong workaholic tendencies. They put all that Virgo into their job.
Yeah.
You know, work long hours, because that's also Virgo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No Virgo well.
and yet their house might be a mess and their room might be, you know, I have people say, oh, you should see he's a Virgo, my teenage son, you should see his room. But you'll find as they grow, they'll probably channel it all into their work. And might eventually become super clean, tidy, and organized. You know?
Yeah. Or their environment can be quite messy, but they'll know where every single thing is. But their mind is, you know, this might be messy, but this is very orderly.
Very orderly, very sharp, very on the ball, very precise. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're moving into Virgo energy, you know, as the sun continues through Leo. By the 23rd, the sun will leave Leo and join Mercury and Mars in Virgo, and there'll be nothing in Leo anymore. So, you know, we go through as these fast-moving inner planets, which all sort of travel roughly in the same sort of area, kind of move through the signs. What we're going to see is that these planets will be leaving Leo one by one, and then we'll fully into a very Virgoan period. But just to backtrack a little bit, on the 16th, Venus, lovely Venus, the goddess energy, you know, the feminine principle of love, relationship, connection, beauty, you know, reaching out, connecting with others, sharing, moves into Libra. So she's currently also in Virgo, but she's going to move to Libra on the 16th. So that's coming
nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
That is so nice. It feels a bit like a soothing balm, you know, in this madness that's going on. Venus again rules the sign of Libra. So we're having currently the sun in its own sign. Mercury's about to move into its own sign. And Venus is about to move into her own sign. Planets love being in their own sign, you know. So that's beautiful. It can really help to bring harmony, you know, into our lives in whatever way, whatever harmony means to us. You know, it might be just suddenly you need to just tidy your personal space because it's sort of jarring and you just need to feel more, or you're wanting to reach out to friends and people and with the desire to want to have more harmony, you know, in relationships. It's a harmonious way of, because, you know, Libra loves peace and balance and harmony and beauty, and that's what it's designed to manifest and create. That's what it's good at.
There's a sense of communing with others and with everything around you, your environment, people you know, situations. Just a sense of togetherness rather than divisiveness, which we've been going through, isn't it?
Oh, so much. That's right. And hopefully, who knows, if we're let out by then, you know, it can be a really beautiful time for people to actually be getting together and just enjoying each other's company. Venus is about pleasure, pleasure and enjoyment. And then, of course, later in the year, the sun and other planets will also go into Libra, you know, after they've been through Virgo. But for now, that is a real, it's kind of made me smile to see that, you know, Venus is going to be moving into Libra, where she'll be for about 4 weeks. So it's just a lovely kind of taste of maybe something that's an energy that's going to feel a bit more harmonious and pleasant, you know.
You know, while you're talking, I'm thinking back about all these recordings that we've done, and following these times where there are hard squares and difficult transits, there always seems to be a period of this, you know, like the other planets come into play, and it's like a bit of a break from it.
Yeah.
After each climactic moment.
Yes.
You know, and then the planets change, but they come in and they don't change into a more negative or still remain in that negative. They just relax. So it's like the planets are, you know, breathing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. Yes. Yes. And you know, even with those really intense, often challenging times, often good things come out of them, but you know, they can be just very exhausting and full of pressure and so on and so on. So yeah, it's lovely to see some of these like but even now with the sun in Leo, that can also be a time of just enjoyment and fun and play, even if we are, you know, not freely be able to move about. You know, we can still in that confined container, you know, have fun, play, you know, get creative and so on. But yeah, Venus, yeah, absolutely. Venus and Libra. Thank you very much. We'll take that.
Yes.
We'll enjoy that.
More of it, please. Bring it on.
More of it, please. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. On the 19th, I've already touched on this. Mercury will be exactly conjunct Mars, but it's pretty much going to be close to Mars over that whole week. And then, of course, we'll come to the full moon, which is on the 22nd, which we'll definitely talk more about. It's a pretty potent full moon because it will be a blue moon. It's the second full moon in Leo Aquarius at 29 degrees, which is a very powerful degree. 29 degrees of any sign.
Yeah.
It's really potent.
That last degree of the house that it's moving.
That's right. That's right.
It's moving through. Yeah.
That's right. So yeah, so that's a blue moon. You know, people often say, you know, what's the significance of a blue moon? And my take on it is, I don't think there is a big one. All it means is every year, because we have 12 calendar months, which is purely a human creation, because there's actually 13 lunar months naturally. The natural cycle of a year is 13 lunar months. So it's going to be 1 month every year where there's 2 full moons in the one sign. It just has to happen, because otherwise it doesn't fit.
That's right, yeah.
And so the blue moon, we say once in a blue moon. So it's only once a year this happens.
Yeah.
So I don't know where the term came from. I've never kind of looked into that deeply. Maybe somebody knows where the term originated from.
Yeah. Well, we'll look it up and present it next time.
Right. Yes, we might, because it might actually look into that a bit more, because it will be happening. That's right.
I'm making myself a note. Good.
Mm.
Okay. Oh, well, that's quite a bit to digest.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to hear more about what the asteroids are doing in future ones too, because I think they're I know you spend a lot of time and very interested in the asteroids. Well, not a lot of people know much about that,
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because it just so happens that I'm preparing at the moment a series of online webinars about the asteroids. And I haven't scheduled the time yet, but I'm just putting material together because they're super interesting. They're super interesting. Some of them are fun and kind of hilarious, because there's thousands of them, and thousands of them have been named. But the early ones, the early first 100 or 200 or so, were named after feminine deities, which was a whole shift in itself. So they can be very interesting to track, and sometimes certain ones of them will be very prominent in people's birth charts, or in a current world situation or so on.
Yeah.
And they really tell a story.
Yeah. Because wasn't there one that went over Wuhan in about November 2019? And do you remember what it was called?
There is an asteroid called Wuhan. And an American astrologer, wonderful astrologer and a wonderful woman, she used to come out to a lot of our Australian conferences and is very loved here in Australia, Demetra George. She was one of the very first astrologers to really deeply study and present work on the asteroids. So she kind of brought that to our attention, to the astrological community's attention, that, oh my God, oh my goddess, there's an asteroid called Wuhan, and look where it was when all of this was happening. And I forget the specifics, but that's something I want to bring into this webinar, because it's just so interesting.
Oh, fascinating. It's that clock, the inner workings of that clock. Click, 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 click.
Right. Yeah. And you just, it leaves your mouth sort of, your jaw on the floor, oh, what? That's right.
I'd forgotten. I didn't think it was called Wuhan. I thought it was something else. But anyway, yeah.
Well, there are others that would have been, could have been active at the time too. But there is specifically one called Wuhan. And I haven't read that article she wrote for a while, but I've got it in my files and I want to go back to it, because I can't remember the specifics, but it was pretty stunning.
Yes, yeah.
And so individuals will find that certain asteroids, because they're archetypes, and, the naming of planets all comes out of Roman and Greek mythology, and the stories tell us a great deal about those energies. And so, these asteroid gods and goddess archetypes, they tell a story. And so we all resonate with different archetypal energies. Jean Shinoda Bolen, who's now in her 80s, wrote that amazing book called what did she call it? Goddesses in Every Woman. And she wasn't speaking astrologically, but she wrote about some of these main goddess archetypes and how different women and men are more aligned with certain archetypes. So there's the Athena woman, the Vesta woman, the Ceres woman, that we align with certain archetypal energies. That can show up in the charts. So interesting.
I look forward to that then.
So yeah, I do like to bring them in. When I see any of them are quite active, like we're seeing with Sirius and the Black Moon now, and Hygeia while she goes through Virgo, because Hygeia isn't only about our personal health. It's also, she was also very much about public health.
Yeah.
In the community, which is so at the
Is there a connection with Chiron there?
Not at the moment. Chiron's in Aries, so Chiron's also to do with, you know, health and medical issues as well. But Chiron's also kind of about our spiritual evolution and growth, often related to issues going on in the body, you know, our wounding.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Including the body. Yeah.
Lots to jump into. Okay. Well, thank you for that. That's, you know, I learn so much from you every time we talk. It's amazing.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. And yeah, so join us again next time when we'll be back and we'll be talking about the next lunar cycle. And until then, everyone take care and we'll see you again soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.